The Fox News alert just a short time ago, Pope Francis canonized the first Hispanic saint and the first saint to be canonized here in the United States. Now, Pope Francis has often been described as the people's pope. Many people, Catholic or otherwise, have praised the Pope for being different than his predecessors. So, how different is he? Greg Burke, the Senior Communication Advisor for the Vatican Secretariat of State, goes on the record. Nice to see you, Greg. It's been a long time.
Greta, good to be back. Thanks.
All right, Greg, so tell me about how do you compare and contrast Pope Francis with his two predecessors?
Well, I started covering John Paul II in 1992. I was at Time Magazine. Time Magazine made John Paul II Man of the Year a few years later in 1995. He was certainly out of the box as well. I remember traveling to the Philippines with John Paul, him wading into the crowds, driving security crazy. So similar to Francis in that way. Obviously, Benedict, a little bit different. I started working in the Vatican under Benedict, but I covered him a long time as cardinal, much more reserved as a figure, and yet revolutionary in the fact that he set this revolution in motion by resigning, no doubt about that. And a couple other things about Benedict. His first encyclical, a message we've heard a lot from Pope Francis, God is love. And also, Pope Benedict was known as the Green Pope. Now, having said all of that, Pope Francis has certainly broken the mold anew.
All right, Pope Francis is a Jesuit, this is the first Jesuit Pope. What do you take away from that? Because that means for many Catholics in the United States, around the world, that was a huge, big deal.
Well, it's a monstrous deal as the first Jesuits. The Jesuits were often on the front lines in the course of the church histories and great defenders of the faith, basically great missionaries as well. Pope Francis essentially wanted to go to Japan. He became a Jesuit hoping he could become a missionary. His help didn't allow him to do that. But it was great training, very rigorous training in the Jesuits. Many of us have studied in Jesuit schools in this country and certainly admire that rigor. And I think that's part of it. It's also, he's a very free man. The Jesuits are very big on discernment, praying a lot and then acting, and he obviously does that.
All right, there's some criticism from some that he's political. And let me take the issue of immigration, for instance. Does he raise immigration as, quote, a political issue, or is it a moral issue? And I'm sort of struggling with myself as I try to sort of decide, is he political, or are these really deeply held moral issues for him? We should look at it that way.
Well, Greta, I think it's a moral issue which obviously has political implications. But in the end, read the gospel, and it's feed the hungry and clothe the naked, right? Essentially, it is the Pope taking the gospel into action. People who are starving, people who are suffering persecution, giving them a hand. It has political implications. There's no doubt about it. But essentially, it is a moral issue.
Is he a simple man? I see that he's not living in the Vatican apartment. That he's sort of, he seems to be, and I say that in a respectful way.
No, and I answer in a respectful way, saying yes. I think essentially very, very simple before simple became cool. Sort of getting, in everybody made a big deal about the Fiat here, but in Rome it's a Ford Focus, which is even a much more modest car. A Fiat is sort of a cool car, to tell you the truth. The small Fiat is sort of what cool young rich kids run around in. But a Ford Focus, nobody is going to say that's a cool car.
Greg, indeed. Greg, thank you. Always nice to see you. It's been a long time, as
Thanks,
I said.
Greta.